What up, guys? Welcome to today's podcast, where today the Chewster and Eugene are going to share with you the absolute best 10 secrets. You with me right here? The best 10 secrets to having the worst jiu-jitsu ever, right? I will guarantee you that if you follow this list that I'm going to give you in just a little bit, you will have the worst jiu-jitsu in your gym, guaranteed. I put my beard on it, right? You can, if you don't have the worst jiu-jitsu, guaranteed, after following this comprehensive list, I'll shave my beard off.
It's a
So
comprehensive list too.
it is. So if some of you guys, if you're on my email list, then obviously you've seen this as it came out a couple months ago. If not, then this will be new and entertaining for you. And even if you actually saw the email, we'll dive into some other little nooks and crannies with it, since it's live and we're not restricted by the attention span or whatever when we're writing in a small email. Typically I keep the emails pretty short and sweet, and so I don't want to keep droning on about things, but it's a podcast, so we get a little bit more time to talk about stuff. I jokingly say that, like with some of the stuff that I post on social media, like we're testing different stuff, and the editor that I have right now, like sometimes they're fun videos. They're not necessarily my particular like type of videos. Like I actually like videos where there's nothing going on. It's literally the guy or the woman sharing their ideas, just letting it out, and I can listen to their voice. But obviously a lot of different content now. There's like crap going on all over the place. I call those my my ADD videos. So like we've been testing some out, and I sent it to my boys, like ADD videos. Let's see how these work. But my email list, all you guys that read, you guys are readers. You read. I talk about the books and stuff in the email list, and you guys are good. So you read the emails. By the way, if you want to get my daily email, go to jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. On there, I have my daily email list, and you also get a couple free ebooks for joining up, just as a thank you. And you can unsubscribe at any time, and I don't spam or sell your information to anyone, so you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But again, we'll jump into today's email or today's podcast. Thank you for joining. And also thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. For you longtime listeners, if you guys didn't know, we have a new Charlotte's Web code. Before it's been 15, then it was 20, now it's 30% off. So if you go to charlottesweb.com, the current promo code associated with our listeners and followers is Chewjitsu30, CHEWJITSU 30, and that'll save you 30% off the order on whatever you buy. Again, my big thing with people with CBD is it's a supplement. I personally like it as part of a recovery routine. As you guys, if you followed me for any length of time, I'm getting a little bit older, and I still want to be able to train hard. I want to be able to get out there on the mat and get after it. I don't want to throw in the towel quite yet. Not that I'm that old, right? But I'm sure no matter how old I'll get, I'll never want to throw in the towel. I'll just keep adjusting, right? I'll be probably 70 years old trying to still get after it. But when you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you're in that stage where you're not that far removed from being in your early 30s, where you're sort of in your physical prime. And so there's that point where I'm like, man, I still want to have it a little bit. And again, recovery is important. I do things like ice baths. I think those are helpful. I'm big into all the woo stuff, like getting out and walking around on the barefoot ground. I usually go for walks in my backyard and all that stuff. Deep breathing, stretching, all that kind of stuff. Good diet, nutrition, drinking a lot of water, getting your electrolytes. And also too, one of my favorite sort of things to throw into the mix is CBD. And again, right now I've been on this sort of regimen with it for a long time. It's 17 milligrams, which is like one dropper full of the small ones, one dropper full. I take it close to bedtime with magnesium, some zinc, occasionally some GABA, some other different sleep stuff that I'll throw into the mix. But again, all that combined, it helps for some good sleep and good recovery. And if you guys want to try it out and see what you think, see what kind of effect it has on your body, check it out at charlottesweb.com. And again, the promo code is Jiu-Jitsu30 for 30% off. Also, thanks to our buddy at Epic World, Matt. Matt is been out there doing a bunch of stuff right now. If you follow on Instagram, he was out there, slinging some Epic World gear at some of the competitions I saw recently. With one of the guests that we've had on, Elijah Carlton was rocking his stuff at the PGF, where he went out there and killed it. Looked great.
He's so good.
He's super good. Super good. And
he makes it look easy, man. It's just like, that's how like he just makes it look so effortless.
Well, and he's a goof, right? Like, I mean, like that's another thing too. He's just out there, like he's out there having fun, and he's out there
Yes.
just being a goof. But he's good and he's fun to watch. But again, Matt's been out there doing that stuff, and again, he makes great stuff. We just sold the Jiu-Jitsu gear. I think I have a few pieces left on my website at. If you go to jujitsu.net, you can find it under shirts and gear. But I have a few pieces left from that order. But we'll be doing a brand new like style of jiu-jitsu rash guards and shorts sometime in the near future. We're still working on some designs, and we'll have them in different lengths of rash guard, like both long and short, and also some short shorts and normal length shorts. And again, you can go to his website at epicrollbjj.com. A lot of times I get questions about the triangle and Kimura t-shirts, if you guys have ever seen those. But again, he's got great t-shirts, great designs, great rash guards, shorts, skis, the whole thing. Great customer service. I'm saying great a lot, whatever. It's redundant, but again, products are good, quality's good, customer service is good. What more can you ask for?
That's right.
You can go to his website at epicrollbjj.com, and the promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped, for helping support the podcast and bring Eugene and I to your ears every week. Again, if you guys have never checked them out, go to their website at manscaped.com. The promo code for them, for our listeners, is Jiu-Jitsu20, CHEWGITSU20. By the way, you guys may be asking, Chewy, why are you spelling out the code? And the reason is because I've gotten a few messages from people thinking that I'm saying Jiu-Jitsu instead of Chewjitsu. So I'm making sure you know it's Jiu-Jitsu20, and that'll save you 20% off the order and get you free shipping. And again, it's one of those things where you don't really think about it. Like everybody's probably, every guy's got a razor. Every guy's got trimmers, nail clippers, the whole thing. And you don't really think about it. And then you use some quality stuff and you're like, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
You know, it's like a steak and then going to getting a really good steak. Like you can go and get like a regular steak for like, like $20-$30 or whatever it is. And it's like, that's okay. It's good. And then like my wife and I will go to this nice steakhouse. It's not cheap, but man, the steak's amazing. Like it's like one of our favorite places to go to. And like they make really good sides.
Mhm.
And so you've been to Steak and Bourbon before?
I have not.
It's good, man. So we
Yeah.
need to take you some time, but we
All
go
right,
there.
let's go.
And they make this steak super good. And again, it's one of our favorite meals to have when we're like going off plan, because it's like, it's a steak. It's all crusty. It's got garlic butter and stuff on it. It's amazing.
Drenched in butter on top.
Oh, it's delicious, bro.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. And again, then you taste that and you're like, oh, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same. And so that's kind of been my experience with Manscaped stuff, because when, again, it's like trimmers and all that stuff. And there's nothing necessarily exciting about it, but then you use them and you're like, oh, it's pretty good. Like, for instance, the nail clippers. I was not expecting to be excited about nail clippers. I just like, they're freaking nail clippers. Who gives a shit about nail clippers? And then I started using them, and I got to say, I really like them, because you know what? I'm kind of a weird person where I hate, like, when you trim your nails and like all of a sudden you've got like the nails are kind of like catching on stuff and you got to trim them down.
Sharp.
I hate that feeling. It just, I don't know. It like, I probably got some weird OCD thing going on. I can't stand that feeling. It irks me. And so I was using their nail trimmers, and it doesn't cause that. It doesn't like cause any of the normal fraying of your nails. It trims them right off and it's perfect. So again, they're great for jiu-jitsu, where if you got to trim your nails, you don't have any issues with it, whatever. I know it's random. If you want to check out their stuff, you want to find some great grooming stuff for a man, go to manscaped.com, check them out. Manscaped.com, promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20. Again, I've used all their products they sell. I like everything they have, and you can find out for yourself what you think with that promo code. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Upon joining, you'll get access to the exclusive library of content that we have. You'll also be supporting the podcast, getting an ad-free version of this podcast, and some additional content that we produce every week that we just throw in there for you. So again, if you guys want to check it out, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast and check it out. So guys, let's jump into today's podcast, where I'm going to give you the secrets to have the worst BJJ game in your gym.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, here are the 10 surefire methods to having the worst jiu-jitsu game. Let's get down to it. All right, guys. So let's jump into this. Again, these are the 10 surefire methods to having the absolute worst jiu-jitsu game ever, guaranteed, or my beard gets trimmed off. Number one, it is no secret that the more you train consistently, the better you'll be in jiu-jitsu. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are as inconsistent as humanly possible with your jiu-jitsu training, right? Again, we talk about this all the time as coaches. We tell people, if you want to get good at jiu-jitsu, if you want to get better, you got to show up. Number one rule, you can't get better at jiu-jitsu if you don't show up. Just period, point blank, that's how it works. So what you want to do is you just want to take off as many breaks as possible. Just take days off, weeks off. If you wake up in the morning and like your pinky's hurting a little bit or something, just take the day off. There's no reason to go, because again, if you keep training, that's going to make you better. So what we want to do is we want to just train really inconsistently and, train inconsistently to the point where, the coaches may not even know if you're a member anymore.
Mm-hmm. If you got a long way to drive to the gym, don't worry about it. Just stay home.
Yeah. I mean, because again, you as a black belt, you fight through that traffic, but you want your jiu-jitsu to get better. But these people, like the people we're trying to help someone stay terrible. So again, when you guys are looking at your traffic, when you're looking at the traffic pattern, guys, you want to just go back and turn. So if you see that there's like a little bit of red on the app telling you about that, just don't even make the trip. Just stay home and eat like some junk food or something.
Well, or find the nearest McDonald's, hop in there. The time that you be training, just work on eating some McDonald's and head back.
Yeah, I mean, because again, you're going to be working on, we'll talk more about that later on, but I mean, you're kind of training, you're working on your top pressure by going to McDonald's, right?
That's right.
It's getting a little bigger. Right. Number two, to avoid injury prevention and the added performance aspects of strength training, you want to make sure that you never hit the weight room. It's like when lifting weights, like it's been proven. This is like I talk to Eugene all the time as a physical therapist. He tells me, one of the best things that we can possibly do to prevent injury and to protect our body is to strength train, right? Because again, it has all these benefits to it. And then from the performance aspect, we all know that lifting weights and being strong and in shape and in better shape, it's only going to help, right? So what you want to do is you want to avoid that completely. And if for some reason you have one of your pesky training partners who's all about like improvement and getting better and stuff, if they come up to you and there's like, hey, why don't you come to the gym with me and lift some weights? What you want to do is you want to tell them this. This is what you tell them. You say, hey, listen, I appreciate it, but I've got to wash my cat. Or tell them anything else is equally preposterous, just something to let them know, to give them the hint that you are not interested, because that's not what you're about. So you want to just basically tell them you got to wash your cat. And then that's one, me and my business partner, Joe, we use it all the time. And again, you will not have to train with them because they'll get the hint.
I've got a really great one. This is what you should do. You go to the gym. Okay. Sit down on one of the machines. You take a picture of yourself like you're working out. And then you say, hit the gym hard. And then you just leave. And that way, there you go. You were there. You took a selfie at the gym on one of the machines sitting there, kind of maybe sweating. I don't know. You're probably sweating because you're
you could kind of virtue signal about like lifting weights and improving, but then you don't actually have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. You just yeah. See, you gotta think smart. Use social media to your advantage. There you go.
Number 3, guys, since your body is a machine and will run as well as you fuel it, you want to make sure that you eat a terrible diet full of fast food and processed garbage. My rule here for you guys, again, for me, I eat whole foods. I eat, here's the way that I think about it. My rule personally, like when I feel the best is when I eat whole foods that I actually have to cook, right? If it comes wrapped in a box or whatever, for the most part, I don't touch it, with a few exceptions of supplements and things like that. So the rule that you guys want to adopt here, this is the one that I would tell you to do if you want to get really bad at jiu-jitsu and you want to have a terrible body, is if it doesn't come wrapped in plastic, just trash it. This will be a surefire way of keeping your body running like a car in need of a engine replacement that hasn't had its oil changed in like 50,000 miles, because again, whether it's just too much fat in one meal that bogs you down, or the abundance of chemicals and preservatives and all these other weird things that your body just has to process through that it's not used to, whatever it is, you're going to overload your system so much that your digestive system and your body's just fighting to stay together, right? And again, think about it this way too. Everyone has been in one of those situations where you've eaten a really heavy meal, like a really big, fatty, heavy meal, whatever it might be. And what do you want to do? You want to go to sleep afterwards. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're lethargic, which is perfect because it'll make it a struggle to go to the gym, which will add back to rule number 1. But even if you make it to the gym, you'll have this full belly of garbage food. You'll probably have to throw up after warm-ups. And if you do make it to rolling, you'll be lucky just to get one round in.
Yeah. I think on the diet front, here's my best advice. Do not, for any reason, hire a coach that has knowledge of strength conditioning and diet, and it's going to hold you accountable. Don't be accountable to anyone. I mean, it's really important. It's really, really important. The other thing is anything with fast in front of the food, that's a go. Use that. Anything with fast in front, anything that has stuff in the name that you can't pronounce, and the more ingredients, the better. So just some wise tips there.
Well, sure, because if you hire a coach, what's going to end up happening is, if you hire like a fitness coach or someone that does this stuff for a living, right? They're going to shorten the learning process for you, just like any coach does, right? And they're going to be able to show you exactly what you should be eating for the goals that you have. If you were trying to improve, and they would try to, again, what's going to happen if you hire a coach? They're going to try to make you improve anyway. They're going to try to like push you and try to help you out with your situation. So what you want to do again is you want to avoid that. You want to wing this thing as much as possible. Like Eugene said, eat your fast food, and you can eat anything that comes wrapped in a plastic or bag or a box or anything. Just again, you want to make sure that it's nothing that comes like when you go around your grocery store, you want to stay away from the perimeter, because on the perimeter, that's typically where you're going to have your fruits, your vegetables, your eggs, your meats, things like that just like the freshest stuff possible. You want to go right into the center. And just go through that center aisles. That's where you're going to find all the stuff that's like loaded with sugar, the weird vitamins and stuff like that we don't need. Stuff that like when you go to like the frozen section, and they've got all those different like I've seen these meals. They have like 1,000 milligrams of like sodium in like a tiny little serving. So if you ate like the whole meal, you'll have like 4,000 milligrams of sodium, which sodium isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that for like one meal may not be the best thing, but for you, it'll be great because you'll be just so like loaded with water afterwards. It'll be fantastic. Yeah. It'll definitely make it a struggle to train. So
yeah, use your money on fast food instead of a coach. I mean, and it makes your life so much easier, way easier. And your microwave's your best friend. Pop it in, boom. Just make sure to take the plastic wrap off. That's my advice. Don't eat the plastic. Don't eat the plastic. But other than that, you're probably good.
You got to put the disclaimer on there.
That's right.
Moving on to number 4. Sleep is one of the most important things you can do for recovery. I mean, it's literally the most important thing, right? So what you want to do is you want to be sure to skimp on your sleep as much as possible. Again, a lot of times I think of it like we talk about sleep hygiene. That's the big thing, right? So you want to destroy your sleep hygiene because that's going to enhance the quality of sleep that you have each day. So here's a few things to do. Number one, fall asleep at different times each night. By falling asleep at different times, your body won't be able to lock into a rhythm, and it'll just disrupt your sleep cycles. I mean, there'll probably be some nights where you'll be lucky to sleep at all. Make sure if you drink caffeine, like let's say if you're going to bed, or if you're thinking about going to bed sometime around like say 11 o'clock, make sure to drink caffeine around like 5 or 6 o'clock. So this way you still have a pretty good load of caffeine in your system, later in the night. Because this will make sure will help destroy the sleep cycles. And then here's a really big one. This is like a secret, like not even a secret. This is just a really like zero cost effective way to disrupt your sleep patterns. Take your phone. And what you do is there's if you look on your phone, there is a little thing here where you can adjust the brightness. You want to crank the brightness up as high as it goes. And then what you do then is like, let's say that you're sitting at, you're getting ready to go to bed and stuff. You want to crank up all the lights in your living room or your bedroom, whatever, turn the TV on. And then you want to sit there with your phone and you just want to scroll on like social media. My suggestion would be to probably like go find a news outlet that really gets you angry, something that posts like really divisive stuff that's going to just get your blood boiling. And that would be the game-changing one, right? Go through it and just scroll that stuff for hours. And again, what'll happen is typically you'll find that as you start to get tired, when you start scrolling, all of a sudden you'll get this jolt of adrenaline and anger and everything else, and it'll wake you back up, and you'll get this like second wind. And then, I mean, you'll be lucky to fall asleep in like the next 4 hours or something, because your body is now in this different sleep cycle. So those are some suggestions on really how to destroy your sleep, because the beautiful part about destroying your sleep is that this way, if you want to train the next day, I mean, you're going to be lucky to muster up enough energy to do anything, let alone train. Yeah. And so more than likely, you're going to start skipping days and being inconsistent, which is our rule number one, right? If you want the worst jiu-jitsu possible. And so again, that's a little tip there for you.
Yeah, I like the idea of like getting to some of these news websites that fire you up and getting some good debates, like really comment and getting some good discussions with some people that you really don't agree with and are never going to see eye to eye with you. And you're never going to meet these people. So you're just going to argue and just fire each other up.
You can't find common ground with them.
You're not, and you don't need to. It's your job is to find the most uncommon ground possible. Be as like opinionated and don't listen to anything they say. Just fire your opinion at them and tell them they're stupid. You'll feel great. You'll feel much better about yourself. And then you're going to feel you'll feel good, nice and energized.
Yeah, and it's interesting is I've seen a few things where, especially on certain social media platforms, that like a lot of the accounts that are like posting and stuff, they're all like they're fake bot accounts.
Yeah.
And they basically these people will hire, because they have essentially these farms out there in different countries where they can hire someone to just, basically create all these accounts and just swarm a particular outlet. So, you may not even be communicating with an actual regular person. Like you might be some person that has literally been paid to be divisive and to create a shitstorm on this website or the social media page.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's the beautiful part about this, Eugene. When you do this, what'll typically happen is there will be sort of like a fatigue from that particular story. So let's say, you see a story on like Monday or whatever, by next week, you're probably kind of done with it. You're bored with it. So what's really cool about a lot of these news websites is they know this and they'll start just changing the story up. So as soon as they notice that you're no longer commenting or whatever, they'll just change the story and put something else out in front of you that makes you really angry. And so again, this will be the sort of the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to destroying your sleep.
That's right.
So again, a great way to kick up your stress, anxiety, sleep, deprivation, the whole thing. So a win-win. Now on to number 5. So here's the deal. When you go to the gym and you're going to train, what you want to make sure is you want to go 10,000%. Right? I mean, the whole time, no matter what you're doing, you just want to go 10,000% the whole time. What this will do is this will ensure that you'll never actually have a chance to learn or feel how to sharpen your techniques in your training. Initially you may experience some success with going so hard, but again, don't worry. I'll tell you how this is going to work. What's going to happen though is since your skill growth is based on you just going really hard instead of your actual technical prowess, you're going to begin to slow to a crawl as far as your technical and your skills. And then what's going to happen is you best believe that your training partners are going to pass upon you in time, because nobody wants to roll with the guy that's going 10,000%, or, when they're drilling, they're resisting full speed. Right. And so that's what you want to do. One, you're going to be hindering yourself from ever actually learning because you're not thinking about anything. And then 2, nobody's going to want to train with you. And then here's what happens. Since you're already undernourished, deprived of sleep, and again, you're not strength training, going this hard is it's almost a guaranteed recipe, to lead to an injury, because again, your body is so broken down and beaten up at this time. And then when you try to turn the burners up, again, going back to that car analogy, it's like needing an engine replacement. You haven't changed your oil in 50,000 miles and you've got the pedal to the metal. That sucker's going to break down, and you're guaranteed to break down as well.
I think there's a quote that everyone should live by.
What's that?
Go hard or go home.
Go hard or go home.
That's it. Go hard or go home.
Yeah. Look, so for you guys,
you can't go 100% or 1,000 or 10,000%. You can't maybe even injure your training partners in the process. You shouldn't be training. There it is.
Well, I mean, for me, like I train, like for instance, I'll tell you guys like this. I'm working on like a couple different things with my game. One of them being like a really slow, controlled passing style that's been working really well for me. And when I'm in the gym, I'm purposely working on that thing every time I can, right? And there's sometimes where I get swept or I get off balance, and it happens. It's no big deal. But again, I know that I'm practicing this thing, and so I'm not necessarily going like 100% right now because I'm being very intentional with my practice and being focused on doing that. But again, you guys are trying to make your game worse, right? This is who this podcast is for. So what you want to do is you want to throw that out the window. You don't want to think about what you're doing. All you want to do is you want to treat it like the world championships every round, and you're trying to win, and that's it. You just like Eugene said, you go hard or go home. Or if you want to think about like Ricky Bobby, right? If you're not first, you're last, right? You're going every time hard. That's all you're doing, right? Because again, this is what's going to help you make sure that your skill stops developing and you get injured.
We're all keeping score on the mats in practice, so everybody's going to know. So you got to make sure, dude. You got to make sure that you win every round. You got to make sure you win every round, regardless if it's injuring your training partner or, any of that stuff. So I think you're missing out on injuring training partners, Chew, by not going as hard as you can. So that's just,
again, for me, it's like I've been training for a long time, and, my job is to keep my training partners on the mat so I can keep training, because I know if they're training, I'm getting better. And again, just my thoughts. But moving on to number 6, for all of you that want to be the worst jiu-jitsu practitioners that you can be, you want to do everything that you can to avoid working the weak areas of your game, right? This is what the best people in jiu-jitsu, they work on their weak areas, right? It's not to say that they don't focus primarily on their best areas, but they try to plug those holes so they don't exist. What you want to do instead is you want to make sure those holes in your BJJ are as wide as the Grand Canyon. This way, soon everyone will become very aware of them, and you'll be getting destroyed by everyone in your room, even the guy that's like 2 belts below you, guaranteed. So basically, the way that you think about it this way, I'll give you an example. When I was a white belt, right? I was a wrestler, came into jiu-jitsu. I wanted nothing to do with the guard game, right? Now, my coach eventually made me play off my back, and I actually got pretty good at it, and I started to like it, and I started to really dive into that position, and eventually my guard game got pretty good, whereas now I'm equally good on top and bottom. This gives me a lot of versatility. I can play a lot of different things there. For you guys that are trying to formulate the worst jiu-jitsu possible, what you want to do is you want to think about like all your worst areas, and you just want to stay away from them. You always want those to be holes in your game to be exploited. And again, what this does is this makes sure that your game always has that Achilles heel, right? Even let's say that you're doing well at a tournament, you're doing well at a roll or whatever, because you never focused on covering those gaps, more than likely someone's going to be able to catch you, even if you were doing well at the time.
Yeah, sometimes I'll utilize like my rolls with like white and blue and some purple belts as like a way to improve my game, kind of put myself in some bad spots. But for you guys that are trying to get worse, just crush those white belts, just smash them with your A game. That's going to be don't use those rolls for anything but building up your ego. Very important.
That's right. It's a good point about the ego part.
That's right.
All right, guys, moving on to number 7. Since the relationship with your training partners is a critical part of your success in BJJ, you want to destroy this as early as possible, right? That relationship that you have with this, you want to destroy it. So here's what you do to make this happen. This is something that, again, all gyms pretty much frown upon. It's something that, like in my videos, when I'm talking to people that are trying to get good at jiu-jitsu, I'm like, don't do this. Here's what you want to do. Number 1, you want to basically make sure to tell everyone that you submitted someone in the locker room. So let's say that, you submitted Bob. You want to tell everyone in the locker room that you submitted Bob. You want to brag about it as much as you can to anybody who basically unsuspectingly crosses your path in the locker room, the lobby, the bathroom, trying to pee, whatever they're trying to do. You want to let them know that you submitted so-and-so, and you want to talk about it, right? You want to, and go into great detail. So like if you submitted him, you want to talk about, man, I was smash him with knee and belly, and then he tried to push, and I ripped that arm bar, man, I killed him. Like, his game sucked. Whatever. Talk all about it, right? Be very verbose. What this will do is this will ruin you. First of all, it's going to anger your training partners and your coaches, so that everyone, when they go with you, they're going to go crazy hard, right? Because they don't like that. Nobody likes that. And what this will do is this will ruin the chances of you developing a bond with friendships with any of the people. And because they're going to be going hard on you, because you're talking trash and you're doing what I some people call kissing and telling. I say tapping and talking. Because you're doing that, it's also probably going to get you injured, because they're probably going to start ripping submissions because they're going to view you as a mat bully. And so again, that's a really good way, because again, you do not improve without your training partners, and so this is a great way to make sure people don't want to roll with you and train with you. You might even get kicked out of the gym.
Yeah, I think that if you, for most people, when they have a tough role, they maybe submit their training partner, and they may talk about it and show them some ideas and maybe, hey, try this or work on this. However, if you're trying to be a terrible training partner, rip submissions, don't tell your training partners how you hit it. Even maybe give them wrong advice if you want. I mean, that's probably a good idea. And then just kind of talk about them behind their backs. Maybe say that they're terrible to your other training partners and that they suck, and maybe they don't deserve their belt rank. So that's always fun.
That's right.
It's a good way to get your coaches kind of on your against you as well.
All right. So number 8, guys, and this one's typically going to happen as a byproduct of some of the other ones we've talked about. What you want to do is when you go to training, right before you train, okay, here's what you want to do. You want to load up on a substance that is going to put a ton of stress on your heart and your nervous system, and you basically want to load up on caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
What this will do is when you get to training, your blood pressure is already going to be jacked through the roof. And since jiu-jitsu is an endurance sport by nature, as soon as you get to rolling, you're probably going to feel like your heart's beating out of your chest, and you'll probably need a rest round. This is a great way to gas out super early in your training. And if even better is that if you slam this caffeine late in the afternoon, it's going to help, again, as I talked about earlier, it's going to help destroy your sleep later on. Because again, here's what happens later in the evening. All of us, if you're getting up early in the morning and stuff, those later classes, sometimes you're just dragging a little bit. It's very normal. For me, I know that if I simply get on the mats and start moving around, my blood will get moving and I'll wake up. In fact, some days, if I've been sitting in front of a computer for a long period of time, I'll get to the gym a little earlier and go for a walk out in the back just to kind of get some blood flow going, right? Or get on a bike or something like that. And then when I get to training, I feel great. So you want to avoid doing that. What you want to do is you want to make sure that if you're just, you're going to be tired, you haven't slept, your diet's terrible at this point. Again, all these things are going on. So what you want to do then is you want to just crush some caffeine. Find the energy drink that has like the highest caffeine content possible, and you just want to crush it right before training. And again, I've seen so many of my students do this where they take a pre-workout or a big energy drink, whatever. Guys that had great cardio normally, and then all of a sudden they drink a big dump of caffeine, and now they're sitting out rounds. And again, it's a good way to start. Now, some of you guys are probably watching this going, Chewy, I drink caffeine all the time, no problem. And that's fine. Again, because a lot of you guys are used to it. You probably don't know how good you would feel if you lowered it down a little bit, because you've gotten so used to the drug of caffeine. But for you guys, again, that are trying to be the worst you can and kill your cardio, slam that caffeine before training.
Yeah, like I like to maybe eat like a little bit of fruit before I go train, something that has some carbs that'll give me a little bit of energy, useful energy I can kind of access quickly. But for you guys that maybe don't want some good energy while you're training, go and hit that caffeine. Get anything that's got like nitro something or other, anything with that's probably going to be the thing you want, because that you'll probably feel pretty good for the first couple minutes, and then all of a sudden you're going to feel like you're about to die. So, and stressing your heart, that's always a good thing. Cardio's important. It's important to have cardio for the first 2 minutes, and then after that, don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, and especially as you get older, right? Because like as you get older, a lot of us, like, you just find that like some of these supplements and some of these things like coffee and energy drinks like that, they start to have negative effects as our bodies age. And so again, if for any of you guys that are older, this is another great way to help just zap your energy in training, and hell, who knows, may even lead to a cardiac event. So moving on to number 9, we have a really important tip. So kind of to preface this one, right? They found there's been numerous studies done where they talk to, or they examine people that are really good experts at certain skills that require their body, right? And one of the things that they find is that the people that are the most focused when they're doing their practice are typically the best, right? So when they were interviewing these people, they found that people that are good will typically just go through the motions, right? They just go through the motions, they get it over with, and then they just get it done with. Whereas the people that were the best, they were hyper focused on everything that they were doing. They were trying to fill out everything they were doing to make sure that they were improving these skills that they were trying to practice and develop. So knowing this, right, we understand that there's that base of knowledge here. What you want to do when you go to your class and you're drilling and practicing your techniques, you want to make sure you just half-ass it. Basically, just do everything that you can to just screw around basically until it's time to roll. Because again, when you're hyper focused during drilling, it leads to the techniques becoming more fluid and second nature. You want to abandon this important muscle memory building activity and just screw around. Take a bunch of bathroom breaks, talk to your training partner about your day, your partner, whatever, watch the clock till it's rolling. This will force you to use more energy during rolling since the techniques are going to be incredibly inefficient. And because you're already working at a deficit with a lack of sleep, poor diet, overconsumption of caffeine, again, this is another way to absolutely destroy your training and make sure that, again, you're never getting better at your jiu-jitsu. And that frustration is only going to lead to you not wanting to go to jiu-jitsu. Again, coming back to the rule number one, our main rule every time.
Yeah, I try to use the gym as like when I step into the doors as like basically a very narrow focus of like I'm trying to forget about some of my problems outside of jujitsu and in my life and really focus on really being diligent about learning and just enjoying jujitsu and being in the moment.
Yeah.
So for you guys that want to be terrible, maybe bring your problems in, maybe what you need to do. Think about what you have to do tonight or the next day. Let your mind kind of wander. Think about, be prepared for once jiu-jitsu is over, what you need to get done. Don't use that time to really like focus on bettering yourself, improving this one task that is infinitely challenging. There's so many techniques and requires your attention. You got to focus on what you're doing and how you're going to do it. Don't do that. Focus on all the other stuff you got going on in life.
That's a good point to kind of go back to something we talked about earlier. What could be really, really useful for you guys that are trying to just like be terrible at this thing is go back to whatever you read in the social media scrolling that you did before sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then like find the most like abrasive news article that you found and then talk to your training partner about it. Right. Like, I mean, again, and if you're lucky, that person will be diametrically opposed to you with your political views. I mean, it's going to, we're covering so many things there. Now we're talking about destroying our drilling, and we're talking about ruining our training partner, our relationship right out of the gate, because we're going to be coming at them from this really negative view. And again, it's a fantastic way to just absolutely destroy your ability to improve.
They do say opposites attract. So, opposite opinions on political things. I mean, that's really going to be a good situation.
Well, sure. I mean, you guys are going to attract each other because you're going to start arguing about something, right? Because you'll be arguing about Biden or Trump, and they'll be doing the same thing. And then what'll happen is you guys will be just there locked in an argument instead of actually helping each other get better at something. It's fantastic. So good suggestion. Number 10, and I consider this like the nuclear option, right?
All right.
So again, to me, this is like, I mean, if you really want to like get this thing short and get it done,
you really want to screw things up here, do this thing.
This is, I mean, to me, this is one of the biggies. Here's what you do. First off, you go to the gym, make sure to never trim your nails, never wear deodorant, don't brush your teeth. The gear that you get, that you train in, never wash it. Don't take regular showers. This may all seem simple, but what's going to be happening there's a few interesting things at play here. Okay. Number one is that you're probably going to get staffed fairly early, because what happens is when you're training, you're being subjected to all these different germs and everything else. And what happens is that, I mean, if just a little abrasion gets on you, sometimes that can lead to getting some sort of skin fuck. It may not be staph. It could be impetigo. It could be all different stuff. But again, something that's probably going to make you have to take antibiotics, for at least a little bit, and you have to take some time off the mat probably while that's healing. But again, if it gets really bad, in some cases, that stuff can require surgery, where you'll actually have to have a doctor go in there and scoop things out and cut it out. So, that's a possibility too. And so you want to make sure, again, that you're not trimming anything. Also, with having, no cleanliness to you with having your clothing stink, having long nails and no deodorant, your coaches and your training partners. I mean, I would be surprised if you did this for just a couple weeks if your coach doesn't give you the boot out of your gym. Which again, if you can't train, it's a great way to not have good jiu-jitsu. And again, the long nails too. What'll end up happening is people don't think about this. Long nails can be incredibly dangerous with what we do. One of the ways is that you can poke out someone's eye or damage someone's eye. Right. Your nail doesn't have to be that long. It can be fairly short and it can still damage someone's eye. Another thing about it is that when you are scratching people, if you start rolling, if your nails are even a little long, it's very easy to scratch people. And then what that does is that it will create a surface for germs and different illnesses and stuff like that, disease, to get into their system and enter. And so again, not only you will be getting staph and skin infections more readily, but you'll also be helping spread them, which will help clear out the gym. And even if for some reason, if you don't get sick or get some illness, your training partners will, which again, we'll get rid of those training partners so we don't have people to train with. And again, that's going to help make our jiu-jitsu not so good. And again, that's a great option it's a great way to get kicked out of your gym and a great way to make your jiu-jitsu terrible.
Yeah. There's a lot of myths in jiu-jitsu. And, cleanliness is not a myth. Washing your gi, washing your belt is not a myth. Well, actually, there is a myth. The myth of, if you wash your belt, you're going to lose all of your skills. So, I wash my belt. I still feel like I'm pretty decent at jiu-jitsu, but for you guys that want to be kind of terrible and have a bunch of funk on your belt and then shove it in people's faces and all that stuff. Because I guess when it comes down to it, you don't want to feel bad about not being able to train, right? So might as well your training partner shouldn't be able to train either. Right. So be one of those people that's just kind of spreading disease and funk. And, if you want to be terrible and you want everyone else to be terrible as well. So
yeah, it's actually
good ideas there.
That is one of the myths. Like one of the myths about martial arts, this is not one that jiu-jitsu, this is just a disgusting martial arts myth, is that the belt started off as white and it just kept getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and it eventually became black, right? That's the myth, right? The actual truth is that Jigoro Kano, the guy that created judo, right? He was a swimmer, and in the swimming that he did, they had these like sashes or whatever that were colored that were to sort of give rank, right? Okay. Saying, okay, this person's rank. So all he did was like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me take that idea for judo ranking and belt systems. And all the martial arts took that and ran with it, right? Or we all have belts now, and we use that as a ranking system. And so again, that's a complete myth about not washing the belt. And it's one that a lot of martial arts hold. And again, for us in jiu-jitsu, if you're doing karate and you never really have that one-on-one contact where you're wrestling around, sometimes you can get away with it. For what we do, all that sweat just soaking into that belt. And if it's never getting washed ever, I mean, that sucker is guaranteed to hold some funk. And again, it could just be this little bacteria, container that can help spread stuff around to make sure that you're spreading, nasty germs and things like that to yourself and your training partners.
Yeah. I think not washing your gi when you get home and just letting it sit like in a bag. And just, that's always you shared a wonderful story about an MMA match where you left your shorts after training.
It was accident.
And I'm sure it was very effective against your opponent. However, probably not the best thing to do for your training partners that you're going to actually want to see again and train with. So
yeah, for you guys who don't know this, you guys that don't know the story, here's what happened. Basically, I was getting ready for a fight. It was in the summer, so it was I think it was July or August, and Kentucky at that time is very hot. Those are our hot months. It's very hot. It's very muggy. It's routine for us to get up in the 90s at that time. And so what happened was I trained on Saturday. And I wrapped up because I forgot my gym bag. I wrapped up my fight shorts in a plastic bag, like a little grocery bag.
Very breathable, that plastic bag.
Very breathable. I just wrapped it up, tied it up and cinched it up. And I threw it in my trunk. And I was like, I had every intention, by the way, of washing it, right? But again, I got home. I was incredibly tired, went to sleep, and I just forgot about it for an entire week, right? Because then the week of the training, I don't really train much the week of. I just kind of warm up and do stuff. And so I don't really wear my normal training gear. And so I had forgotten about it. And then the day of the fight, I remembered because I was like thinking to myself, where are my fight shorts? And then I thought about it. Oh my God, they're in my trunk, wrapped up in this plastic bag. So I went out there, got them. I opened it up, and it smelled like death. It was the stinkiest thing. So I wore those. It was a terrible stinkiness, and I had to keep them. There was a window in the room that we were in, getting warmed up in, and so I had the shorts hanging out the window, trying to get rid of some of the funk. And then I put them on like right before we went out to the ring, because everybody was like telling me that these shorts stink. Now, here's how you know that it works. After the fight was over, I was like talking to people, and people were coming up and, giving me high fives, people I didn't know, right? I remember this one Marine came up to me, and he said, man, that was awesome, whatever. And then he stopped and looked at me and said, bro, you stink. And so again, if you want to have that experience with your training partners and your coaches, it's a great way. I actually kicked out one of my students, not forever, but for the day, because I got to the gym, and my business partner, Joe, was like, bro, you have to go talk to so-and-so because his gi stinks. And I said, okay, I'll take care of it. So I walked towards him. I could smell him from 10 feet away. And I came up to him and I said, Mike? He said, yeah. I said, when was the last time you washed that gi? And his response, he basically stops and looks up to the ceiling and starts thinking and goes, again, the response should have been yesterday. He had to think about it. It's as if sometimes when you ask an older person how old they are, they have to think about it because they've been around for a while, like 50, whatever. He had to think about it. I stopped him and said, bro, go home, go wash your gi. You're holding bacteria. You're going to spread some funk. Let's go get that taken care of. So again, the nuclear option, if you want to do it, that's it. So, is there anything else you want to add, Eugene?
Oh man, there's so many things, but I think this is good enough. I think this is good. This is enough bad advice for one podcast, I feel like. So yeah.
So guys, I hopefully after this podcast, listening to it, you will be equipped with all of the techniques, strategies, and ideas to have the absolute worst jiu-jitsu on the planet. Again, being the best is really hard, but we can be the worst, right? Worst is
and if you're not the worst right now, maybe you'll get demoted. It's possible. Maybe they'll take a few stripes away. Maybe you'll lose a whole belt rank. I don't know.
You follow this strategy, bro, and I'll be surprised if you're in your gym for the next week.
That's
afterwards.
Right.
I mean, this is a.
If you really want to get out of your gym contract, follow these tips.
By the way, guys, I just want to put a disclaimer on this. Don't do anything we just talked about on this podcast. Dear God, don't do any of it.
We have been trying. I've been trying not to laugh the whole time. It's actually been hard because I was trying to think of like how to make these ideas worse, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna accidentally say good stuff, and we have incorporated some things that we do that is beneficial, of course. But like you said, do not do these things. These are us kind of trolling and talking about things you should not be doing. This is how to be a bad training partner, a bad teammate,
right? Of course.
So yes, of course. If you didn't catch that, let's just say disclaimer. Let's let people know that that's what's going on.
I just want to have a disclaimer because I don't want someone to go, Chewy, I listened to an episode of your podcast and I drank 500 milligrams of caffeine right before training and I went to the hospital.
Like just
don't do that.
Just listen to that part. Maybe like we should say at the beginning of the podcast, like, hey, disclaimer, listen to the very end for a very important tip. Or a disclaimer, something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Number 11. Don't follow any of this advice. We're having a
number 11 is the actual real one.
Spinal tap moment.
That's the real tip. Don't do any of these things. You guys know that we want you guys to get the most out of jiu-jitsu, and we thought we'd have a little fun. Chewy thought it'd be a good idea for us to have a little fun with this one. Just talk about, it's kind of like opposite day on the podcast today. This is opposite day.
So where this came from is me and one of the students, a guy named Kevin. We were on a bike one day, just kind of pedaling and just kind of working out or whatever. Kevin had a child named Carter, and him and his wife, they both come into the gym and train. And, Kevin and I were talking, and it was right before the pregnancy was over and she gave birth. And we both, him and I, talking like, neither of us had great relationships with our fathers, right? Our fathers either weren't around or when they were around, it wasn't great. And so we jokingly said to ourselves, you know what? If we have kids, Like we'll at least know what to do by knowing what not to do.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes we can kind of think of it this way, right? Like you can kind of know some of the simple things to do by just simply knowing what not to do. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed today's podcast. Got a kick out of opposite day here. And all right, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed opposite day here on the podcast.
That's right.
If you guys would like to, another little tip for you there, if you would like to not help your recovery and not get the benefits of, a really good supplement that can help you with sports-induced inflammation, having better sleep cycles, having a better sense of well-being, from anxiety and things like that, then do not go to charlottesweb.com and do not use the promo code Chewjitsu30, CHEWJITSU 30 to get 30% off the order, off the normal price. Because again, it's a great deal and you don't want to take advantage of it and you don't want to get the recovery benefits of CBD for your training. Again, we're going back to it. We're trying to stay away from all that recovery nonsense. And CBD has been something that's been a part of my recovery for several years now. I like it. And so I share it to the people that want to get better. But for you guys, you don't want to stay away from it. Also, guys, do not go to epicrollbjj.com. Again, you guys don't want to support yourself with your training. So you definitely don't want to get high quality, well-designed gear that comes from a company with great customer service, from a fellow black belt in jiu-jitsu who's, making gear. He's going to tournaments. He's trying to support the community. You don't want to be a part of that, right? Because you're trying to be the worst. And so again, don't go to epicrollbjj.com and look at his selection of t-shirts, shorts, no-gi, rash guards, the whole thing. And if you found something, you definitely don't want to use Jiu-Jitsu 20 for 20% off the order, which would save you money at checkout.
If you've got someone in your DMs that's like, dear sir or madam, I've got the best jiu-jitsu gear from Pakistan, I'll make it for you. Go to that guy, give them your money, because they will probably give you stuff that'll disintegrate if they don't just take your money as it is. So
what is it with the dear sir and madam? Like, I mean,
know.
It's like
hilarious.
It's like if they hired an American for like 2 seconds just to like write up some sort of thing that sounded more conversational, like real, you would be more likely to listen to them. But because you see dear sir or madam or / madam, you already know what it is.
It could be a scam. So, I'm not going to send my money to some dude in Pakistan to make me a rash guard that I don't need more than one of anyways. So, like if I'm it's a different story if you own a gym and stuff, but still, like, go with a reputable company, or don't if you want to, waste all your money. So,
I mean, wasting your money is going to help support the other 10 on our list, right? Because if you're getting frustrated because you got screwed over from some sketchy thing going on in another country, probably going to be frustrating. That's going to help support our quest to becoming the worst in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there you go.
And also, guys, if you're a man, you definitely, especially if you're trying to, look good for your woman or whomever, or you're trying to attract someone in your life, you definitely don't want to keep yourself well groomed, right? If you've got a beard, you don't want to keep that thing trimmed up and looking nice. You want it to be all scraggly. If you've got chest hair and stuff, you just want to let that stuff grow out till you've got like a carpet on you. You definitely don't want to trim down around your downstairs. You want that thing to be like a hedge maze down there. And again, one of the best ways that you can do that is by avoiding going to manscaped.com. Again, they've got fantastic products for scaping up your man stuff, right? From your hair all the way down to your friggin' feet, I guess, if you got hairy feet.
That's right.
But whatever you got, they also have really good products. Again, I've talked about this before. I didn't realize like how good the products were, and then I started using them, and I was impressed with everything, even the small mundane stuff like damn nail clippers. I never thought I would be impressed by nail clippers, because nail clippers are nail clippers, but damn it, they've got good nail clippers. And so again, if you want to avoid all that, again, and you guys that are trying to be the worst in jiu-jitsu, you want to have long nails and stuff anyway, right? So you want to be kind of gross because you want to get kicked out of your gym, because again, you want to be the worst. So again, you guys want to avoid this, but those of you that want to actually be well groomed and be a little bit more handsome, go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. And again, you'll get free shipping as well. It's a great deal. And if you guys want to check out anything they have on their site, check out they have an actual package. If you look at it, the package, the number change depends on when you're listening to this. It will probably go up a number. but they have their performance package, their platinum package, whatever it is, and they have that package, and that'll give you a bunch of different stuff in one. You'll save some money on it too, and it'll give you a good trial of what they offer with their trimmers and stuff like that. So check them out at manscaped.com.
Yeah, I'd like to add that if you are trying to grow your chest hair into your neck beard, then obviously don't use Manscaped. I hear that can be sometimes appealing to some people, you know, so don't use Manscaped.
I think if I'm getting pretty hairy right now. I was thinking about this. Like if I didn't shave, I would definitely have like chest hair to neck beard, and I think that my eyebrow would close up, and I would basically have like just Wolfman.
I would just caveman, bro.
Yeah, bro.
You're just a caveman, and yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is, who doesn't love like training with someone with this hairy chest, and you get like a hair in your mouth, you know, after training? That's always fun. So you know,
chest hair doesn't bother me
if you want that. No, it's fine.
Chest hair doesn't bother me. You know what bothers me is when people like one of the guys, I didn't want to be mean to him this morning. I was like, he had smoked a little bit, like, you know, a little weed before he came in.
Yeah.
And again, I don't really care if I smell it, but like when someone's breathing, like I don't smoke, and so those smells are super pungent to me, and I'm like, ugh. So I was like, hey man, I'm like, could you just like put a mint in if you hotbox the car when you come in? And guys, if you want to support the podcast, then great. If you don't want to support the podcast and you don't want to be a part of this, right? Because again, you don't want to listen to a podcast like ours each week, which is going to try to help you make your jiu-jitsu better and give you some ideas to chew on, right? And so you definitely wouldn't want to go to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where we have a library of content from all of our previous guests, many of them really well decorated jiu-jitsu black belts, giving tangible tips to how to improve your jiu-jitsu and ideas for your techniques, things like that, as well as an ad-free version of this podcast, as well as simply helping support the podcast come to you every single week. Now, if you guys like the podcast, then you can do that because you guys are wanting to get better. But those of you that don't, and you were trying to have the worst jiu-jitsu possible, you don't want to go there.
That's right.
And the last resource that I want to shy you guys away from if you're trying to be the worst in jiu-jitsu is do not go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN, and do not sign up for my email list, because when you sign up to my email list, I'll give you 2 free ebooks that can help make your training better. One is on how to develop your game plan, and one is on developing strategies for focused practice and drilling. And again, you don't want to get that because, as I talked about earlier, you want to avoid all this focus. And in that ebook, I'll show you how to basically focus your practice, whether you're a coach or you're just simply training in your gym. And then you'll get my daily email, which can be everything from just like books I'm reading that can help you with training or mindset or just ideas that could be fun to you. I'll also be sharing training tips and different ideas for techniques, as well as sharing different videos and things like that I've created on YouTube that, again, could be useful to you. You trying to be the worst that you can be, you want to avoid that. But again, that's at chewjitsu.net/join. And I think that's that. You know, and another thing to do, guys, if you guys enjoyed, if you or listened to the podcast, again, you definitely don't want to support this podcast with I'm done being a opposite day now. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you had a good time today, then you should support it by, if you don't want to support any of the stuff that we have going on, whatever, that's fine. But go to the whatever podcast app that you use. If it has a function to give a rating, give us a good rating. Give us a thumbs up, a 5-star, or whatever the heck they offer. That stuff helps out. One, it helps out when people go through and they're seeing and they're like, which podcast should I be listening to? Because there's new people coming into the podcast in jiu-jitsu all the time. So that'll tell them. Also, too, from the algorithmic overlords, it lets them know, people actually like this thing. So if you're watching on YouTube, click that little thumb button. I even hate being that way, right? Like, I don't, whatever, just do it if you want to. Well, and if you're listening to the podcast, then give us a thumbs up or give us a rating, leave us a comment. Eugene loves getting the comments.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we got one here. I'll read it. Okay. We got one right here. It's it's from Dogs Are the Best. Agree? ? And the title is BJJ is fun. Been training over a year and a half, still a white belt, but I love the podcast, and especially with guests on for the interviews. Keep it up. Thank you. Dogs are the best. Agree. I love the names.
Is there another one there?
Yeah, we got a few. Let me see if there's another. This one's a little older one, but it says, "In my bearded opinion, ... So this is from the Rona
fellow bearded man.
It says, this is a great podcast. Good for the training mindset. Talks about principles. And my favorite is the rules for jiu-jitsu, which is great info. Rules with the little R.
Nice.
So yeah, awesome. Appreciate that. The Ronaconda.
Appreciate you guys for your comments in your ratings. So guys, again, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Going back to it again, this was just we're kind of goofing off a little bit today. If for some reason, if you skipped through this and missed it, do not do anything that we told you to do. Do the opposite. And thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.